Professor Indra Abeysekera. Let's look at how to choose a research method. Before we choose a research method, we need to ask three questions. First is the solution going to be deduced or induced from the research problem? If it's going to be deduced, then we will look at the scientific approach. If it's going to be induced, we will look at alternative research methods. But the second question we ask is the sample size representative of the population? If the answer is no, then we will resort to alternative research methods. If the answer is yes, we progress to the third question and ask, do data distribution follow a normal distribution? We're going to use the scientific approach. If it's going to follow a normally distributed pattern, then we use parametric tests related to the scientific approach. If it is not, then we use the less sensitive types of tests called the non-parametric tests. Scientific research methods are outlined here. 7 of them categories. Is a test compare two populations when the sample size is greater than 30 observations. But if the sample size is less than 30 observations, we can use t-tests. We can use t-tests to make inferences about a population or to compare two samples and make inferences, or use the same sample, same observations over two periods and compare. So these tests are looking at the variations in mean or the dependent variable, you can say. Analysis of variances look at the independent variable. It is the variation in the independent variable at different levels of independent variables. Different categories, you can say, factors. Compare different levels on independent variables. So there are number of techniques under ANOVA, analysis of variance, or multiple analysis of variance maneuver. The fourth, regressions. There are a number of techniques under regressions. It looks at the relationship between independent variables and dependent variables. Fifth is multi-level modeling. That is to look at the same sample and analyze at two hierarchical levels. Because for a given phenomena, it could be that it's just not one population that is responsible for the solution or the conclusions that we want to make. In fact, there are two different types of populations are there that is influencing this the total phenomenon. Multi-level modeling. Canonical correlation is to identify most important variables representing constants relating to the dependent variable and relating to independent variables. Most important variables. Structural equation modeling is to look at unobserved variables. So the variables are normally observed, but unobserved variables are the concepts. So it's a way of relating concepts. Structural equation modeling. Now let's apply this to research question. So as I said, we start with a research problem. In this case, because we can look at the relationships as well in scientific approach, I have a research problem here. The same research problem, bullying by bosses is a serious workplace problem. But what is our research problem? So first, is it test? We can ask, is there a difference in length of stay between bullied workers and non-bullied workers at workplaces? Two different populations. Two key tests. Is there a difference in absenteeism among 25 bullied workers before and after bullied at work? Or we can ask, is there a difference in absenteeism among 25 bullied workers and non-bullied workers at workplaces? So the first one is a paired sample or matched sample, and the second one is independent samples. One sample size is less than 30. We can look at analysis of variances and ask, is there a difference in absenteeism among bullied workers in young, middle-aged, and older workers? So the workers here are the independent variable. Absenteeism is the dependent variable, but workers are now tiered into 3 levels as by their age, and we can make conclusions how age influences of bullied workers, how age influences absenteeism. Fourth is regression. We can ask a question about relationship. Can age, qualifications, job status, relationship status associate with absenteeism of bullied workers? So age, qualification, job status, relationship status are independent variable, and with those variations are associated with the variations in absenteeism, which is the dependent variable. Fifth, multi-level modeling. We can ask question, do bullied victims' personality characteristics, that is one level, and industry membership, that's another level of analysis, got to do with bullied victims' workplace absenteeism? Sixth is canonical correlation. What are the most representative variables about absenteeism and bullying for bullying at workplace? We're trying to find out the most important variables representing the constructs of absenteeism and bullying. Structural equation modeling. What is the latent relationship between absenteeism and bullying? So absenteeism and bullying are concepts or the constructs, and we are trying to look at the relationship between those two at the latent level or at the conceptual level, and we can use structural equation modeling. So we can see that we can ask different research questions, and depending on the research question that we ask, we can match with an appropriate research